former CIA counterterror official Phil Mudd. He was part of the diplomatic team that helped build a new Afghan government after 9/11. Did I set it out right?
You did. I think people are making this too simple because they see photos that you talked about and images that make them think of Vietnam. Chris, we've been there 20 years. It's not that simple, so let's talk about it.
So when you see this, people say, oh, this is horrible. This has been a complete failure. It's a disaster. What do you say?
Well, they're asking the wrong question. It is horrible because we're asking the question of whether the pullout has gone smoothly. It hasn't, and President Biden ought to answer questions about that. Fundamentally different question about whether U.S. military, CIA, and others who lost their lives and served for 20 years served successfully. I'd say they did. I sat there 20 years ago. It was really cold. It was raining. 20 years ago when we raised the flag over the embassy. The embassy was a time capsule, Chris, 20 years ago, because we had left so quickly. I cleared a bird nest out of the CIA office. There are still pinup calendars in 2001 because they'd left so quickly. There was a cigar in an ashtray. We raised the flag again, and let me tell you two things. The mission we had was to ensure there would never be another catastrophic event. If you had told us 20 years later there'd be fewer than 200 people killed in international terror events in America over the next 20 years, we'd say, you're nuts. If you'd asked a second and final question, the debate we'll have in 20 years is whether we are successful building a nation in Afghanistan, and that's the debate Americans will hinge their judgment on, I'd say, you're nuts. We did, Americans, the military, the agency, the State Department, the American people who funded this, we did what we were told to do. Enough with people saying this was a disaster. Chris, it was not.
We were there to stop another 9/11. So now if we leave, the question is, are Americans as safe now as they were 6 months ago?
They are not, but they're being told that this is a catastrophic event, an epic failure for America. It's not for a few basic reasons that I can tell you as a counterterrorism professional. We collect intelligence that we could never have collected and collated 20 years ago because we have a lot of people, a lot of money, a lot of technology, and a lot of focus. We have a willingness in the Congress, at the White House, to act on that intelligence. That is, send a drone or a plane in and kill people. You could not have done that 20 years ago, 21 years ago, ever. We have partners, people like the Saudis, maybe even the Pakistanis, believe it or not, the Iranians, who are more focused on this than they would have been 21 years ago. And one last thing, Americans won't like this, but it's a reality. We still have relationships with warlords, people who murder other people, but warlords who have the ability to collect intelligence to tell us where the foreigners are. I'm not saying it's great. It's not. We're not as safe, but it's not a horror show. And the media characterizations of this, the pundits are wrong.
So what is the most important thing to do next?
To ensure that we have the capability to continue collecting information that identifies people who want to attack a city in America. The question is, can we keep an American family safe? It is not, can we ensure that a capital, Kabul, halfway around the world is safe? It's going to be a humanitarian disaster. If we're supposed to be responsible for every humanitarian disaster, we should move into Yemen, we should move into famine areas in Africa, we should move into North Korea. We have to collect intelligence and act on it with partners to stop a catastrophic event. That's what we got to do, Chris.
Phil Mudd, thank you for your service to the country. Thank you for the perspective on where we were and where we are today. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris.